You know, that's something that's inside, that's breeded as a child, you know, that you just want to go out and kill black people in the church, you know. It's so much deeper than that. It's about the education system. You know, Charleston was, you know, institutionally keeping up with the Confederacy. Like, they were completely promoting it. When I came, every time I went to Charleston, I felt it. You know, it's a beautiful place. You know, the plantations are even like, okay, it's a beautiful plantation. Gorgeous, you know, magnolia trees. Some beautiful people that are from there, you know, that really are, you know, those Southern folks are important in Charleston. And it's just devastating that this is happening in our country in 2015. And that's why I'm an artist. Like, if I wasn't, you know, that's why we have to continue to talk about these things. And so we got to help our people. We got to help the white kids too, though. And I always say that, like, it's not just about our community. It's like, we want globally, or this country to survive, because that's gonna keep happening. Because there's madness in this. There's madness in miseducation. When you're telling somebody half of the story and you're lying to black kids about who they are, you're not telling them, you know, that they come from kings and queens. You're not telling them that they're Native American, that they're indigenous people that were here before Columbus. If you're not really telling the true story, the global story of our people and how we are here, and how we're the connectedness of everybody that's here. Because if they taught it like that, then everybody understood, everyone played a role. And maybe your ancestor wasn't the greatest ancestor, but they played a role. Here's our opportunity as whatever X generation or Z generation to make the world better. And we're not presenting education in that way. It's unfortunate. It's so easy. I did a Black History Month program at a very rich white high school in Michigan. Big art school, Cranbrook, and it was all white kids. And I told them to put your hand up if you know who Emily Dickinson is. And they just got their hands up. I was like, you know, Shakespeare, T.S. Eliot. I mean, I'm naming all of them, the typical, you know, 10 white dead guys. And they're like happy. And I put a Mary Baraka, and it was a sound. It was a sound. Their hands going down created, it was so loud. It was like, shoo. I was like, wow. And they're paying like 30 grand. I was like, your parents are paying all this money, and you still are having a segregated educational experience. You're getting half of the information. They're only teaching you a third of what exists in American literature or any kind of other literature. Where's the Asian writers? Where's the Native American writers? Where's the Caribbean writers? Why give these kids the same English white men? Like, it's ridiculous. It's like all European, Western thinking and education, and no Thai, no Japan, no South Africa, no, I mean, the continent of Africa is so vast with writers and thinkers and languages. It's unfortunate, you know, but that's what has to change. Like, this country has to want to participate in the globe instead of just wanting to, like, only speak one language, right? Like, our kids speaking one. My kid is gonna, like, you know, my son King is like, wants to speak French, Spanish, Swahili, Arabic, and he's gonna speak all of them. The schools don't offer the level of scholarship that he wants, he doesn't get from schools. We've had to, like, come out of schools and so he can get the education he needs to be a global world citizen, you know? America wants workforce. They don't want thinking people. They don't want people to think outside the box. They don't want independent thinkers. They want people to think one way. The foot has been on our neck for quite some time here, and that's on purpose. I grew up in Detroit. Now, I remember when crack came to Detroit. I remember when Reagan was the president. There was no war on drugs. There was war on our communities. You know, all these guns. Suddenly, my boys had access to all these straight, humongous, you know, automatic weapons. I'm like, where did these come from? We ain't building guns like this. We build cars in Detroit. We ain't building them automatic weapons. What y'all do? How y'all getting this shit? And the crack epidemic, I mean, that's on purpose. You know, they're trying to destroy our families here. And they're the minority, you know, like, on the planet. If brown people, Haitians and South Africans and people like, you know, the people of the color around the globe really kind of united more, you know, Europe would be really afraid, you know, but instead they keep us separated, they keep us not global, they keep us localized, they keep us poor as fuck, and then they teach you nothing about yourself. And so, I mean, this is still connected to slavery. This is still connected to the Middle Passage. I mean, if any Jewish person can talk about the Holocaust, you know, but we continue to suffer from the African Holocaust in this country. There hasn't been a repairing. There have been no reparations. Nothing has said, you know, because my mom and dad or my dad, my people couldn't go to school, Jessica, your son shouldn't have to pay. And I believe in reparations. However they work it out, I believe there should be something given for the way that our people were treated in this country and still are treated. Look how they treat President Obama. I mean, it's absolutely most disrespected any president has ever been. I'm so glad he said nigga. Like, people were so mad at him saying nigga. I was like, why shouldn't he? Because every president before him said nigga. Oh yeah, they say it all the fucking time. You think they not saying nigga and white boys ain't saying nigga? Yes, they are. You know, so why can't the black man say it when he's been called it? And I'm looking forward to post-Obama. Like, I really am. I really like, because I know he likes my poetry. He can't talk about it now. I know him and Michelle love my work, but I'm rowdy, you know. Like, my third book was God is Not an American. So I'm always challenging, you know, the status quo. And that's what we have to do. I mean, it's up to us to kind of create new leadership in the youth, to get them galvanized, to get them excited, to show them people like me exist. You know, I was in South Africa in Soweto, just showing Soweto, you know, little kids in Soweto, like brown girls, like, that I exist. And I would just do a rhyme. They would be like, oh my God, who are you? How you talk like that? You know, they were so excited. I mean, and I'm not on MTV. I'm not on regular rotation on a radio station yet. Everybody wants to know truth. You know, that's the common denominator. What is the truth? You know, what is the truth about this history of this country? What is the truth about what's happening in this world? How do people go into a place where people are praying to whatever God they pray to, and somebody wants to murder people who are in their, you know, elderly people, somebody's mother, somebody's father? What possesses them in that way? You know, but we create these monsters right here in this country. Or we want to make everybody else the monster, but we breed them here. I'm doing what I can as an artist. I'm one person. I got my son King to raise. You know, I'm trying to make him a great, great man. My son will never have strippers in the video. My son ain't never gonna have talking about the cocoa. You know, you can make whatever music you want to make, because I don't believe in censorship. But in a place like Detroit, where people are already suffering, where I know kids whose mamas are on crack, like, that's how much they were embarrassed by that song. Like, these kids are like, their moms are really on it. You know what I mean? They got moms and dads who are on drugs. They ain't got a daddy because he's on the corner, because he's strung out on heroin and crack. And you got a video talking about I'm in love with the cocoa, when you got kids in high school, and some of the best high schools in our city already experiment with putting a little cocaine in the weed, promoting that to our babies with absolutely, you know, no responsibility, nothing connected to what you are doing to our people. I petitioned it in Detroit to get it off the radio, you know, and it was, you know, that's not a popular thing to do. And I'm not one of those, you know, it has to be sanitized. And my record is an adult record, and I say what I want to say, but these are not the times for shit like that. It's just garbage. It's straight garbage, and we don't need it. And I don't understand why the radio stations would be spinning this mess, you know, talking about, because the kids are requesting it. Really? So your radio station is ran by the children that call into the station and say they want to hear the song. You know, when you got people who are really struggling with drug addiction, you know, everyone can name somebody in their family in Detroit that's been affected by crack, cocaine. That just hurts my heart, because I don't understand that. We have so many great artists that are not talking about that, but we don't get the radio play. We don't get the money. We don't get the push. Talib is like, you know, a great, you know, the things that he's saying, he's got great records, but he's working. Like, we be grinding for our shows. Like, we working to make our money. It's not like they're giving it to us. You know, nobody ever gave me anything, ever. You know, I've had to take it. I've had to say, this is how I'm going to live my life. I'm doing it on my terms. And I said this to One Below when I was actually with him in Pontiac. And I was like, you know, it's not that, I don't need JayZ and Kanye's audience, but their audience needs me, without question. And that is for real. I need to be in front of all them stadiums that they got all them young girls in. God, you know, to have someone like me in front of them would be way more transformative than, you know, transform their lives in such a more impactful way than having them just sing their popular songs off the radio. Some of those artists need to pull some of the other artists in and give them some platforms. But, you know, Talib is doing it for me. But Talib and I are from the same cloth. It makes sense that Talib would do it for me. I mean, I was on Nostradamus. Nas was one of the first to give me a platform. A lot of the hip hop artists, the young MCs, knew me from opening up that Nostradamus, the prediction and the outcome. And Nas said, I want you to be the first and last thing that people hear on my album. Doesn't come out of typical rappers' mouths, you know, like the ego of a MC doesn't say that about a woman. He even said he wanted my picture and inside the graphics and all that, and that didn't happen because somebody probably hated on me, you know, some girl. Like, no. He also said, your work reminds me of my work before I started making money. And because there's an edginess that's in your work, because when you get too much money and too famous, it's hard not to lose the edge. When you flying on private jets, for real, like when you are really making millions of dollars with your work, I mean, hats off to the artists who can keep the edge on. So I like that. I like being like right below the radar, you know, to be honest. But you know what I mean? It depends on where I am And yeah, some places I'm famous and some places are like, oh, I never heard of your work. And I'm like, that's great. You know, fantastic. You know, I want to go to the movies and eat popcorn and liquor with my son and chill out. And more importantly, it's about the work, staying edgy. I got to be able to be connected to what people are going through on some level in a very tangible way for the poems and the writing to be poignant, you know? Otherwise, I'm pretending. And that's what I get mad, like some of the MCs, like, you know, if you've been all over the world, you're not talking about the world. You know, been all over South Africa. You done been in the best restaurants in Italy, in Portugal. Why aren't you rhyming about it? Rhyme about it. Stop talking about the block. You haven't been on the block in 30 years. You know, write about something else. Use your imagination. Write about Saturn. You know, that's what the poet's been doing. You know, and so I love poetry in that world because we do see ourselves in bigger ways. And we don't just we write about the block, then we also use our imagination to get the fuck off of it. You know, I've been writing myself out of Detroit for quite some time, and I love my city, but because I was writing about drug culture, I was writing about my boys dying, I was writing about it. I wasn't about to be dying, and I wasn't about to be in jail, you know, and I could have been both of those things, but instead I used the art to help me survive and found a way to connect with other girls and women. You know, I've been saving my boys' lives my entire life, like straight up, like, no, you can't go to that drive-by, you know, just having enough intelligence about myself, you know, knowing that I could, as a girl and a woman, impact men's lives in that way. And because a lot of times they're just doing it for us, to show off, trying to get the big car for us, to come pick us up in the fancy car, you know? And, you know, I say, you know, when the men started approaching me, this is when I was just like 19 and 20, and I was like, well, I grew up in Cadillacs, so cars don't impress me. My daddy had 4 or 5 different Cadillacs, convertibles, Eldorados, whatever. You gotta have more than a car. What you got? What's happening in your heart? What's happening with your brain? What you talking about? What you read? What's your bookshelf look like? I do that to brothers in their 40s now, in their 30s, and they don't have nothing to talk about. No bookshelf, and they might have a nice car.
I grew up in Bed-Stuy, New York, the home of Biggie, the home of JayZ, you know, the home of Fabo. And it was a hopeless environment, but you can see the successes that have come.
I don't want to hear about it 6 months from now, talking about what that you want to get it done. Just actually do it.
Every 45 minutes, go in the studio. It's like, yo, Rich, think you can make that run?
I wanted to sing, but I wanted to rap, and I wore a suit in church, but I wore these Adidas with Run DMC, you know?